I've gotten to know Veronica in some recent years. Many of you may or may not know, Veronica founded a firm titled Inspire Green, and she recently sold that firm and now is in Houston, Texas. And she is the director of transportation and drainage operations in the city of Houston. And I'm looking forward to hearing so much from her today. And I'm also looking forward to hearing my buddy, Tomika Monterville. Tomika and I go back like car seats, y'all. I don't know how many years it's been, Tomika, but we used to work together at DDOT. And Tamika is a transit geek, as I consider myself one too. But she is the newly appointed director of the Department of Transportation for the city of San Antonio. And when I found out both of these sisters were going to Texas, I wanted to make sure I reached out to both of them and made sure they knew each other. And the first thing I did was reach out to COMTO staff after talking to the both of them and say, look, we got to get these ladies on the panel. It's great to hear from city departments of transportation. And we have two outstanding, forward-thinking, progressive ladies leading the way. And this is a unique opportunity where two of the largest cities in Texas have both of them as champions for transportation. So I'm super excited. And we couldn't have had a better panel today, y'all. So now I'm going to turn it over to Meshelle, where she's going to take it from here. And I look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Freddie, so much. I really appreciate that. I just want to tell everybody that I am honored as well to be able to be moderator for these dynamic women. These women are breaking barriers in transportation. So I'm excited. I hope you're excited to hear a little bit about their story, and let's make it happen. So let's get comfortable. Let's keep our ears open, and let's get ready to hear some good stuff, okay? So ladies, I want to first start off with, of course, the main thing is, how did you get involved with transportation? We'll start off with Tomika.
Thank you, Meshelle, and thank you, Freddie. We go way back like car seats. Love that. I want to first of all say thank you to COMTO and thank you to the city of San Antonio for giving me this opportunity and coming to you all from the indigenous lands of the Coetaan people here in San Antonio. I actually started in transportation after my uncle got me a job at Metro. I was unemployed and had graduated from Howard, went back home to Los Angeles and had an internship in the South Bay area planning team of the Los Angeles Metro. And that was my introduction. I didn't know what transportation planning was. I was totally unfamiliar with it, having graduated with a degree in finance. I didn't know what planning was, but throughout my life, I actually experienced the impacts of transportation. I watched the 105 freeway be built while I went to junior high and high school. I was bused to school. So I think transportation has just been a part of my life forever, but my introduction was as an intern. And subsequently, I went to graduate school because I loved it so much. And that's how I started my career.
Very good, very good. All right, come on, Veronica.
All right, hello everyone. Thank you, Meshelle, Freddie. Thank you to COMTO. I'm excited to be here. I would say that for me, I was born into transportation. Almost feel like I was predestined in some cases. So my short story begins with my grandfather and my grandmother. They co-owned a taxi cab company in Raleigh, North Carolina. And partly it's because that was a way for Black people to be able to get around. You know, it's easy. I mean, it's hard now sometimes to get a taxi, but you know, you're talking about 60s, 70s. It was really challenging for Black people to be able to move. And so my grandparents filled in that gap and had a taxi cab company with up to 35 cabs at one point. And through that, they were able to send my dad and his siblings to college. And so my dad is a civil engineer. and a planner. And he started on the railroads. And then when I was born, I was actually born in the DC region. And my dad, literally, my mom went into labor while my dad was at UMTA, now the Federal Transit Administration, but back in the day it was UMTA. And so my mom went into labor outside of UMTA's building. So when I say I was born in it, I was literally almost born in it. And it's funny because you spend your whole life running from this thing only to just, for it to come back. So I was like, I'm going to be a ballerina. I'm going to dance. I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be all these things. But I was just always naturally really great in the sciences. And then I, decided to go to Maryland for engineering. And I said, I'm going to do chemical engineering. I took a chemie class and I walked out that first exam and I went and I said, what can I major in where I never have to take another chemistry class in my life? And so I ended up in civil, the thing that I said I wasn't going to do. And my mom also worked in the transportation. She used to work for New York City Transit Authority. So I just grew up in it. I've tried to run from it, but in some cases you feel like you're just predestined to be a part of it. So here I am.
Sometimes we never know where our destinies will lead us, but I'm so glad that y'all destinies have led you to where you are right now. So ladies, we are always talking about, it's always on the news. We are in the midst, of course, of COVID-19. It is at the center of everything that we do. Please tell the audience, what are some unique ways that your city is dealing with COVID-19? And Veronica, we'll start with you.
Thank you. So, Houston has been a hot spot, an epicenter, some will say, of COVID. And I would be remiss to say that it hasn't affected my team. I oversee my department, it's probably about 1,000 people. We have a lot of frontline people, both on the drainage side and the street side. And we've lost some of our team members to the pandemic. And so I say all that to say is even with that, I have crews that are still showing up, still very dedicated to serving the city of Houston. And what we're doing, specific to transportation and drainage operations, we are very much part of the logistics. So my team has set up all the cones. So when you see the aerial views of the testing sites or the vaccination sites, those are my team, the team of TDO that have gone out there and set up the cones and are directing traffic and are helping move people through. And so just being able to lift up and support in that way.
Yes.
Our team, they are showing up even midst COVID. We've been doing things of, at one point, all the crews used to show up at the same time. So we're doing staggering start times just to help them stay separated. And it's very challenging because of just the physical nature of the work that they're doing. We were talking earlier in prep, we're prepping for a storm. And so the crews, again, the staff that are out there, they're getting ready, they're trying to treat the roads, trying to stay distant from each other, which is very challenging. So, that's what we're trying to do, but we're also trying to be innovative and trying to get some projects done, while right now, traffic is a little bit lighter, trying to advance projects that we can on the construction side, as right now, as we're dealing with, some of the lesser traffic. And it's also causing us to think differently of how we use our right of way moving forward, and being innovative, whether it's protected bike lanes, which we call high comfort lanes here. But it's trying to be innovative for how we use our space as we move forward.
Okay, so Tomika, can you talk about your city in dealing with COVID?
One of the things that has been really refreshing is the city mayor Nierenberg, the city manager Eric Walsh, and the council and all of the team of 10,000 plus employees in the city have really pivoted, as most cities have had to do, on a short timetable. So one of the things the city did that was really impressive is the development of a return to work program last May. And that program was really comprehensive, and it included many of the things that Veronica just spoke about, the innovation, which I think is really critical in the age of COVID, the technology that people need to stay connected to identify resources has really been a tremendous tool. So the mayor provides a daily briefing. These have been going on since COVID began. The city manager sends out an internal message to all of the city staff and council about what we're doing, how we're being proactive, and what's really unique are the working groups that were developed with the Return to Work program. So these 6 groups have identified different things that we need to do to prepare the workforce, to protect the workforce. And that's number one, is protecting the workforce and redesigning our workspaces and facilities to accommodate what we need to do in order to reduce the spread. So I think innovation, which is one of the core values of the city, has really been critical because we can't physically touch people. We have to provide the technology and the information through media, through our social media. And this has been an essential tool. And a part of that dashboard, you can find out where you can go get tested. You can find out how to get support for housing, how to get support for transportation needs associated with the loss that many people have experienced with regard to jobs. I mean, we're the 7th largest city in the country, and we're seeing the impacts of this virus, and being proactive is critical. But I think the number one thing is the innovation that has been prompted as a result of COVID has been to the betterment of the city and the residents that we serve.
I tell you, innovation, thinking outside the box, boy, I'm gonna tell you, we all have to put on a new set of skill sets, okay? When it comes to each of our cities, how we deal with COVID, our staff. But it sounds like to me, you ladies got a pulse on that. So, you might be getting some telephone calls for ideas. Next, I would like for you ladies to tell the audience, do you have a Black History hero? Since this is the month of February and that's being celebrated all month, we also have our COMTO's 50th. So do you ladies have a Black History hero? We'll start with Veronica.
Actually, yes, I do. So my Black History hero is Fannie Lou Hamer. There is a photo of her that has been in my daughter's room since she was born. That is saying, be inconvenient, and always, to really stand in your truth. And I think that, if anyone's ever heard, Fannie Lou Hamer talk, it's the power in her voice. It's the speaking, speaking her truth, and speaking from a place of passion. And so that is just, I have a lot of photos in my daughter's room, but that was one I made sure to have in her room, so that she could always have a very strong woman to look up to.
So for me, being in transportation, unlike Veronica, I wasn't born into it, but had I been, it probably would have been a similar story. I fell into it, and it's who I am. It's a part of my life. And in 2003, I volunteered to become an Underground Railroad conductor with the Montgomery County, Maryland Parks Department. Okay. And in that role, I portrayed Ann Maria Weems, a young enslaved girl who escaped on the Underground Railroad. So my Black History hero is Harriet Tubman, who I consider to be the mother of multimodal transportation. I mean, when you think about a Black woman in the 19th century helping over 300 people get their freedom, that's unimaginable. I could not imagine doing that at the time that she did it and helping so many people at the cost of her life. And so for 13 years, I volunteered. And every time I walked those 4 miles with people from all over the world and the country, sharing with them the experience of just the modal experience. So as a transportation expert, we think about all of the modal administrations in the US DOT. Harriet Tubman walked, took a train, took a boat. If they had air travel, then she probably would have been in the sky. So
I
when
hear
you think
that.
about the context of this woman coordinating a multimodal trip, multiple legs, multiple times in rain, sleet, and snow, that's incomparable to me. That's the only word that I could use to describe her. She's incomparable and will always be my hero when you think of Black history. But I also think of the heroes who, Rosa Parks, you know, when you think of the women, when you say her story, there's so many stories of women who have been heroes. But for me, Harriet, she takes the crown.
Okay. All right. There's some powerful responses. For you ladies, I tell you, I'm loving this. So let me tell you, that segues right into my next question, right? How do you feel about the increase in minorities, particularly women, in leadership roles in transportation? Because you women, you both are leading. So how do you feel about that? We can start off with Veronica.
One, I'm loving it. I recently was talking to, you have your brain trust of people. There were women that came before us, Gloria Jeff, and Beverly Scott at MARTA, women who really paved the way and led, these transportation organizations. Greer Gillis, another one down in
Yes,
Jacksonville now.
Greer. Mm-hmm.
Greer Gillis, all the love. But women who really paved the way, and opened up, the opportunity, for us to even just be able to sit here. And so right now it's a beautiful thing that's happening. Because it's not even that it's Black people leading these different transportation organizations. Is I know them. You know what I mean? Like, it's like when you like, oh no, I know them. And Tomika and I have probably been on text, message since Freddie connected us, and just, being able to talk and have a different level of discussion, because it's not just about what's happening in the city or what's happening in our department, it's how we are managing all of those things. Or, Michael Carroll in Philadelphia,
Yes.
you got Euless Cluckley in Denver, and, and last and never ever least is, Keith Benjamin in Charleston. And, people who I revere, I respect, I consider them part of my brain trust. And so I'm just like, right, it's just dope. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just going to, I got my pearls on, but it is just a dope thing that's happening.
Hey, be for
now.
real. We're being for real, ladies.
Period, as the kids say. It's just really, it's really dope. And I'm really excited to see. And even when I look at President Biden's administration, again, just the awesomeness that is there, the talent, the Black and brown talent that has been tapped, that is now at the U.S. Department of Transportation. I think we're just at this really pivotal moment of all the things that we've talked about, all the things that we've wished for. We're really now at a moment that, we'll start to see hopefully the tipping of the scales. We can see better transportation in, Black and brown communities. When we talk about Vision Zero, we can talk about it, but at the end of the day, you crunch the numbers 5 ways from Sunday, it comes out the same. It's Native American, Latino, and Black, particularly men, are the ones that are dying on the roadways, particularly as pedestrians. And so there's this just energy that's happening now. So I'm really excited for what's going to happen over the coming years. I probably went off topic, but that's just was on my heart and mind.
So if the spirit made you move, girl, speak it. Speak it. I'm telling you, speak it. All right, Tomika. So tell us about what you think about Black women in leadership roles in transportation.
I think it's a long time coming. And just as Veronica said, there's so many amazing Black women who've paved the way for us. I saw in the chat someone put Carmen Turner, having worked at WMATA, seeing her, magnificent profile and just seeing her every morning when you come into the building at Jackson Graham, it's an inspiration. And what I think is unique about this opportunity, you know, when I look at my tribe of women who empower me, Helen McSwain, you know, there's so many living legacies in this industry who we get the privilege, Veronica and I and all of our peers, to see walking around and to tap that knowledge. And, you know, Deborah Johnson, we were at Metro when I was early in my career, and just, you know, being a source and having conversations with you and supporting you on those days when you walk into rooms in a leadership
Yes.
position and it's assumed that you're the secretary. You know, when you can pick up the phone and call a sister in a position of power who can say, brush that off your shoulders, sis, keep walking in your light.
Yes.
You know, I think of Elizabeth Solis and Terry Solis. These are my Latinx sisters who have changed the game and are changing the paradigm in private industry and also in how we engage with the community. Because I'm in a city that's majority Mexican Americans, my brown sisters and brothers who have been disenfranchised in their homeland. And when you think about the context of the places in which we navigate and telling the story about how people who are less or assumed to have less and be less than experience transportation, that's a pivotal conversation that we have to have. We all come from a place of privilege, but in leadership, our vision and the impact and our experience has not been fairly exhibited in the projects and programs that are carried out by departments of transportation and transit agencies across the country. So now is our opportunity and time to share that, and not through a lens of negative, but through a lens of intrinsic value and tapping into the intrinsic value of the histories and stories of communities and how they navigate, and being able to program that into our operations and our daily operations. And those are the stories we have to tell. That's the role of a public servant and what we're doing.
Excellent, excellent. You know, like us, like you're saying, the time is now to seize the moment. The time is now to seize the moment. I want you to take a second, lady, and I just want you to think about this next question I'm about to ask you. What advice do you have for people looking to advance in transportation? You know the struggles that you have gone through yourself. You know the barriers you've had to break through yourself. So what advice would you have for people who are looking to advance in the transportation industry? Tomika, we're going to start with you.
I think the first piece of advice is to have a conversation with yourself about what you want in transportation and how you want to grow in transportation. I think a lot of times as a quote unquote minority, we sell ourselves short. We don't walk in our shine and our brilliance. In the past year, I've had an opportunity to, you know, hire an executive coach, a career coach, to help me just be my authentic self. And most people know I show up as my authentic self. But I think when you're in a position of leadership, you struggle sometimes with really acknowledging your value. For so long, I spent a lot of time making myself small to make other people feel big. So I think the first thing is you need to know yourself. And if you want to grow into a leadership position, you have to have a tribe. Veronica talked about, you know, her brain trust. It's a beautiful thing in this time in my career. And, you know, as long as I've known Freddie, he's always been one of my sources. So everyone is not a source in your future and your destiny. And you have to be able to discern that. And the way you can discern it is to have conversations with people who have walked that path before. I think it's really important to have not just mentors, but sponsors. You know, one of my major sponsors, a peer and colleague and friend, Karina Ricks, who always, you know, set me up when she had opportunities because she respected me as a professional. So we need our white brothers and sisters to say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna get mine. Let this young brown brother, let this Native brother or sister, let this Asian sister or brother have this opportunity. And those are the true allies when we talk about race relations, who is an ally in your life? Who is someone who's going to set you up and allow you to grow and create an environment and share their network with you? Those are the synonymous traits of the people who are in my tribe. You know, I just met Veronica, but if I call Veronica tomorrow, she's going to look out for my needs. She's going to help me, you know, duck and weave in situations professionally and personally that could derail me in my path. And I think that's what people need to recognize, is having a good tribe, because, hey, none of us have made it here alone. There have been people who have set the foundation and we're just walking in that path. But having a strong mentor and sponsorship is critical.
Very good, very good. All right, Veronica.
Absolutely. And not to turn this into the Karina Ricks love show. But you know, I think really she really does embody, you know, a lot of people will talk and run their mouth of, oh, we need to increase the diversity and increase the number of women, increase the number of people of color. But, you know, Karina Ricks is that person that is like, no, I'm going to do it. And so in my previous role as a co-owner of a company, you know, it was Karina that was able to open the doors to allow us as a company to be able to work and serve the people of Pittsburgh. And I've known Karina since I was in grad school. And she's just always been there and always showed up and opened up her network. And, you know, Freddie gets the love too. You know, Freddie has probably, you know, heard 4, 5, 6 earfuls. But it is really important to have, you know, that tribe of people who are going to give you honest love, because love doesn't just mean, oh yeah, you're right, you're the greatest, you this, you know, people who can also chin check you when you might be stepping out of line, or, you know, you might be overreacting, but, you know, really people that can just show that real honest love. And it's funny to me because sometimes people will drop names like, oh, do you know Tomika Butler or Keith Benjamin or Charles Brown? I'm like, yes, I talk to them all day, every day. That is my tribe. Those are my ride or dies. Those are my, you know, my brothers from another mother. You know, they are, you know, people who I trust, people who I can go to help just discern different decisions. And so that is absolutely critical. And then having mentors, people who, and to me, and so one of my mentors, I love him to death. His name is David Wallace. He's just retired. He was at RK&K, engineer. And I chose him to be my mentor, and it was a little thing. We had gone out to lunch, and it was just like, you know, one of those little like cafe places, and he left a tip. I know it seems like so small, but and it wasn't like a big show of things. It was just who he was. He left a tip when a lot of people wouldn't do that. And this was, you know, a couple of years ago, and I was like, wow, that's big. And so, you know, for me, and he has been a really great source of wisdom for me, you know, as I've navigated my career, as I even tried to decide, oh my God, do I take this position in the city of Houston? I got it. Like, am I ready? Is it too big? And so that person that can really just help you have that level of wisdom and discernment. So those are the things I would say. And then I would say join organizations, COMTO, Women's Transportation Seminar, National Society of Black Engineers, where you can be linked up with people who are in this space, who can help you just answer questions, because, you know, transportation is big. You know, transportation is everything from, you know, someone who's a flagger, they're part of transportation,
That's
you know,
right.
all the way up to, you know, a CEO, general manager of a transit agency, and everything in between. But anything, you know, whether bus driver, there's a lot of pieces of it. So really it's discerning where someone fits in transportation.
Very good. Okay, so that means that people need to have some type of mentors, tribes, allies, and there have to be some built on a lot of trust.
Can I say something too, Meshelle?
Of course you can.
One of the things I think as Black people, we get caught up in having a mentor who looks like us. So for all of the people on this panel today, Karina Ricks is a white woman who understands and not only understands the experience of Black professional women in this sphere that we're in, but she advocates for us. And Jeff Booth 3 years ago asked me a question. He said, "What do you want to do, Tomika?" I've known him since I worked in transit in DC. And he's seen my progression professionally. And he asked me, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to be in a leadership position." He is an ally who said, "Call this person, call that person. I'm going to make a phone call for you." So don't get the message mixed up with the messenger is really critical, because your allies may come from a place that you never even imagined they would come from. And that's really important to discern who is an ally, whether they look like you or not. But if they're opening a door of opportunity, recognize that and take advantage of it, and don't take it for granted either. It's a reciprocal relationship.
Well, I can tell you personally that I've experienced that, and they've helped me to get to where, I have in my career and where I am in my career. And I believe in what you're saying 100%, because when you walk that road, you know the path. So ladies, thank you for that one. So this goes into the next question. What excites you about your new role that you're in? This is spanking brand new, getting your feet wet. We got weather things going on. So tell us, what excites you about this new role? We'll start off with Veronica.
One of the things that excites me is, it's gonna sound real crazy, but so I have transportation and I have drainage, and so drainage is stormwaters, ditch, everything, and it's a flat city that has just no we flat, water just sits. And so the Mayor Turner just released the Resilient Houston plan. And some of that is, conversations of how do we begin to live with water. And so the thing that I'm really excited about is just the challenges of balancing how we are handling this water, whether we're moving it, storing it, or reusing it, and how it all fits into our roadway. Because when we think about resiliency in the future, there's a lot of pavement in this city. And with that, there's also a lot of opportunity. And so right now, under, like I said, the leadership of Mayor Turner, it's go, and I need you to go faster. And so it's just, it's just exciting to have the political will and leadership to actually be able to move forward some of these really challenging plans and things that come with those things. So I'm just really excited. That's part of why I'm here. I'm just really excited. That's what excites me right now.
Okay, Tomika.
I would echo what Veronica said about the leadership. What attracted me and my family to San Antonio was the fact that the leadership recognized the need for a transportation department, because as many cities, we were public works and transportation planning was somewhere, you gotta dig the plan. Yeah. It's really about building infrastructure in public works. And there are limited opportunities to have the thoughtful conversations about the experience of transportation that our residents have and our visitors have. And so over a year ago, the council, the city manager, the mayor, they recognized the need for this department. So my department, unlike Veronica's, is a new department. And we're created to have those thoughtful conversations about what do you need. And what attracted me to this city was the fact that they started the conversation about equity several years ago. And that equity, to look at a city's programming and see that there's an equity budget tool, I said, hello, that's what's up. You know what I'm saying? Like, you recognize that there's a need to do better and be better in serving the people who call this place home, San Antonians. They need to have the opportunity to discuss, communities of concern. One of my first conversations since I've been here, this is my second week, was with the equity department. My panel consisted of diverse departments, including equity. And so there's an amazing equity atlas that the city has to talk about the communities of concern. And that, I think, is groundbreaking in many ways, in that the leadership recognizes that we are not serving all of the San Antonians that call this place home equally. And so we're better to start that conversation than in where you're spending your money. And I think that is what I want to be a part of. I'm a Black woman in America in the 21st century, and all things are not equal. And I do not want to promote that, or I don't want other people to have to experience the negative implications of decisions made in a city that does not consider the lens from which we look at it.
That's good. All right, this is looking good. Okay, ladies, this is another. I want you to take a second and think, right? Do you have a personal leadership philosophy? You know, that personal in your mind that you'll run over and over again. You may or may not always put it out there in the open, but if you had to speak to it, do you have a personal leadership philosophy? We'll start with Veronica.
Yes, I will say that. So growing up, I was very much into sports, and my basketball coach, was really about commitment and all those things. And so I look at leadership. It's like being a point guard. It's the person who's trying to set up the play, run the play, who's looking at the court, seeing what's happening, and being able to pass and make something happen, seeing who's open, passing that ball. So I would say that, and part of what that means is you got to adjust to what the defense is doing, right? So if the defense is playing man to man, that's one thing. They hit it the zone, and you have to be able to adjust and to be able to match what the situation on the court is at that time. So I'd say that's my leadership philosophy.
Tomika.
So I subscribe to the servant leadership, school of servant leadership. And you have to be willing to serve people. I don't care what level you're at, you have to be willing to serve. And, I often say it's not about, I'm going to get my shine. It's not about where I go. It's where I leave the people who have been under my leadership. So it's really critical to me to support and develop people. That's something that I've been fortunate to have leadership like Freddie, Katandra Noy, Greg Walker. I can name all those people who've sown into me the leadership philosophy that I have. And one thing about each of them is they were willing to serve me and my needs, and as well as get the job done. And that's a rare commodity these days. I think that's what's missing. I think John Maxwell says, he's sad about the state of leadership today because there really is not a lot of development that has gone on, I would say, in the past decade. I think Veronica and I have been fortunate, and we're here because we had great leaders. And that's something that I tell many people who I mentor, is that everyone placed in a position of power above you is not necessarily a leader. And the key is to know the difference. Some people have a title, manager, supervisor, but they may not have the tools, so they're not a source for you. So being able to discern the leadership versus management is really critical, I think, to anyone's ascension or growth and development. But I prefer to serve the people who support me. And we're a team at the end of the day. And that's one of the city's core values is teamwork.
I really appreciate that. Well, ladies, let me tell you this. Before I turn things back over to COMTO National, I want to say a little quote that we all probably know now from Miss Amanda Gorman, the youth poet. She says, "For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it." Well, let me tell you that you two ladies are the light, and you have been brave enough to see it. And I want to thank you so much for it, because you are leading so many more of us in a different way, in a better path. So thank you for allowing me to be your moderator And I'll turn things back over now to COMTO National. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, Meshelle.
Thank you. That was a great discussion. This is Gatwiri again from COMTO National. We have quite a few questions. We're going to try to get a few out there. So the first question is a two-part question from Betty Jackson. She asks, can you discuss achieving work-life balance as a Black female leader in transit? Can you also discuss the decision to make the physical move to another city and the impacts of that?
Well, I'll start, from work-life balance. It's one of those things. I'm about the boundaries when it comes to certain things. I have an 18-month-old. And so anyone knows that from about 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock, call if you want, you're just gonna go right to voicemail. Because that is just really the time of day that I get a chance to spend with her, have dinner together as a family, help get her ready for bed. And that's my time. And so it is part of balance is knowing what your boundaries are, what you're not gonna do. And having time for yourself. I do try to I'm not a morning person at all, but I try to get up in the morning because that's about the only time I can really, get quiet, and spending that time, just in meditation, writing down kind of what my thoughts are for today, giving myself a mantra for the day. Sometimes my mantras just go slowly. Sometimes my mantra is get it done, but it's, trying to center myself for the day. On the second part, let me tell you, it was a lot. So I had about 3 weeks to find a place to live in Houston, find daycare for my child, pack up all my stuff and get it in a pod, figure out flight stuff, all while having COVID, right? So it's like, and managing people in and out of my house, and then trying to sell my house to DC, like it was a lot. I don't recommend it. But it has been a really great transition. And it's one of those, it was a lot of prayers, a lot of anxiety. Tamika and I would text each other. She said, how you do? I was like, girl, I'm holding it together. Oh, all while trying to also manage transitioning a business. It was a lot. So I would say November and December were a blur for me. And even as I step into this role now, it's I have an elephant, and you got to just take it one bite at a time. And you say, you know what, I can't do everything. There's a really great book called Essentialism. And one of the questions it asks, it's like, what is the best use of my energy in this time? Because if I'm giving myself to everything, you're giving everything just a little bit of energy. And so as I step into this role, it's like, okay, this is my priority. Yes, I have all these other little things. I'm going to tackle this. And then once this is done, I will tackle this next thing. But it's just taking it one step at a time. And eventually you are able to manage the elephant.
Yeah, I think this is not advisable, what Veronica and I have done. Typically people take like 6 weeks to plan a move, but not for nothing, it's been worth it. My husband and I actually contracted COVID during our move. So this is my second day in the office. I would say, just like Veronica said, boundaries are really critical and important, and you have to set aside that time for yourself. So I don't have any children. My husband is retired, law enforcement. So I have a different experience. So we were able to make this transition because we didn't have a lot of those obligations. We do have a house that's under contract, thank you, Jesus, back in Florida. But I think what's important is that you have a partner to help you with that. And if you're single, I think it's great. I've been single and moved for jobs, but it's really critical that you have a partner. No man is an island. And being able to establish those boundaries with work and recognizing, that's the first thing I told my team last Monday. I said, the most important thing is you, your family, and then this job. Because if you are not healthy, your family will not be together and you will not be able to do this job. So for me, I think it's important to care about people. And that's the culture that's here in San Antonio. I learned that the city manager was delivering anniversary, awards and gifts for employees. That's the culture you want to be about. So they respect boundaries. The city has a winter break. So it's important that people take care of their families. But it's been challenging, but I think, hey, you know, we carry that Black women are strong, but we are hella strong. We can do a lot of things. And I think a lot of times we challenge ourselves and we're like, check that box. Yeah, I moved across the country in 3 weeks. Deuces, what's next? You know, keep it moving. And we get that from our ancestors. I mean, come on. We get that from the Fannie Lou Hamers of the world. You know, we can take on these challenges. I think what's different now is that people are understanding our stories as Black women and how we take on challenges, the methodologies we use, and still I rise, you know? So that's just in our makeup. I think that's the brilliance of Black people, you know, and the brilliance of many minorities. We have challenges, but we overcome them. And we do it with grace and ease. I mean, we shine in the day, Black magic up here on TV, on Zoom, you know, you wouldn't even know this story. And that's how good we make it look, you know, but it's challenging, but we don't do it alone. We do it with our village.
So I know we have other questions, but I think this is it's something Tomika said, which is an extremely important point. Or made me think of an important point is, so we moved very quickly, and that's because the door of opportunity opened up. And I think sometimes because something is hard, or we'll sometimes be like, well, I don't know if I can do it. And I'll say, I mean, I have my doubts of like, oh, do I really want to do it? And that's where having a tribe becomes important. But most important is when that door of opportunity opens, sometimes it calls for us to be inconvenienced, to pack up our life and move halfway across the country in order to really, you know, sit where we are called to be.
All right, thank you, ladies. I know we're running out of time, so I'm just going to throw this last question out. It seems like a good way to wrap up. It's from Greg Grant. It says, since both of you are relatively new to your current posts, what is a lasting change to your agency that you would like to leave once you move on?
I'll take Greg's question. I think the legacy I would like to lead, and this is something Emeka Monterville, former director at DDOT, shared with me. You know, he said, Tomika, you need to identify what are the top 5 things you want to accomplish. And that's the same message I shared with the team. Because we are a team, we're going to build this department together. The legacy that I would like to leave with the Department of Transportation in the city of San Antonio is that you always have an opportunity to do better. And I think many agencies lose the light and the spark and the excitement of change. And change is a beautiful thing, and you have to embrace it. And the legacy of this department under my leadership will be, we're not always going to do things the same way. And that's critical, that we don't get comfortable doing things the same way.
So thanks for the question, Greg. He's one of my former team members. It's good to hear the name. You know, I'd say for me, so I have inherited, I've inherited a blended family. There's a lot of history of my particular branch, but I inherited a blended family that may or may not have been blended well. And so I would say, I think the biggest thing that I could leave with this organization, it's extremely, extremely talented people that work in transportation and drainage operations, extremely talented. But often having worked in a culture of fear to make a decision for a variety of different reasons under multi, generations of previous leaders. And so I think the biggest thing is creating a structure and being a light that helps to allow the light in them to shine. The talent is there. It's just helping to unleash that talent and helping to expand the possibilities of what can be done and linking them with just different types of resources. I would say that's the biggest thing.
Great, thank you both. I'm sorry we're unable to get to the rest of the questions, but I will bring on now once again, Mr. Freddie Fuller, our national chair, our national board chair, with some closing thank yous.
Wow. Ladies, excellent job today. It's certainly an honor to be the COMTO chair and get a chance to, sit on the front row and listen to you all. And it's good to be able to call you friends. Now, I won't call you anymore or text you anymore between 5 and 7, Veronica. I didn't know those hours were off limits. But no, Meshelle, great job moderating. I want to thank you for stepping up to the plate as you always do and doing it so well. There were so many things. I thought I was going to be able to throw out a few pieces here. I was listening. Y'all threw out a lot of names, and what's bananas about that is, we know everybody now, y'all. It's like, I don't know. Somebody said when we were prepping for this that they had arrived. I won't get into the details of that, but they knew they had arrived. And you arrive when you know all the players kind of like on a first name basis. It takes a long time, longer than I thought to get here in the sense that there are a lot of old heads that don't want to stop working. So we're continuing to push them out of the way so that there are more opportunities for ladies like you to take charge. But I just want to give you all, I want to wish you well, first of all, on your new jobs. Even you, Meshelle, you got a new role at WMATA. And I want to say thank you for what you all are doing in terms of your leadership. And yes, Gitwiri, I was thinking that before I got on screen. If everybody give that virtual applause, and I'm giving it to you. I was like doing the whole snapping the fingers and the whole nine because y'all were really, really pouring some nuggets out there for our COMTO family. And I want y'all to remember where y'all heard Tomika and Veronica first together. It was at COMTO, y'all. We want to give our people a lot of love. And I look forward to what's going to happen this year. This is our 50th anniversary. We were founded at Howard University in 1971. You all mentioned Carmen Turner. Carmen Turner was involved with our founding. You mentioned UMTA, Veronica, and UMTA at the time was very instrumental. That's where Carmen was working at the time. She was working with one of our founders, Mr. Harold Williams. He was the head of civil rights. And Carlos Villarreal was the administrator at UMTA at the time when COMTO was founded. So I'm always finding a way to throw a little bit of that COMTO history back in the mix. You mentioned some other people like Mike in Philly, Keith in Charleston, Euless in Denver. It's 5 of y'all that you mentioned. I don't know if any other minorities are holding it down in cities. COMTO family, if you know, let us know, because I want to figure out a way to get those brothers on a webinar as well so that we can talk to them, and then maybe we get all of y'all together at some time. You gave a shout out to Karina. Why does everybody know Karina, y'all? Like, that's ridiculous. Y'all gave shout outs to Greer, Gloria, Jeff, Bev Scott, Deborah Johnson, Helen McSwain, David Wallace, Tomika Butler. I was like, no doubt. There were a lot of great shout outs, a lot of great people that were mentioned. I am going to pass it over to Gitwiri. Before I do that, speaking of leadership, speaking of great talent, COMTO is about to launch their president and CEO search. So if anybody's looking for an excellent leadership opportunity, we welcome you to apply to the COMTO president and CEO opportunity. It will be on the streets later this month. And I certainly encourage you to take advantage of an organization that is at the forefront. I'm literally waiting on the edge of my seat to speak to Secretary Buttigieg. He's already had his staff reach out to us. They want to engage COMTO. And, the last person that ran this organization got appointed to deputy FAA administrator. So it's an attractive job, y'all. So don't forget. And COMTO 50, I think Gitwiri wants to share some more information. And I'm going to hand it over to Gitwiri.
Thank you, Freddie. And thank you, Tomika, Veronica, and Meshelle. And one question we got was, will this recording be made available? Yes, this has been recorded and will be made available for anyone who's missed the event. And I know one of our presenters may have to drop off, so thank her again. But before we leave, Want to remind you once again that it is COMTO's 50th anniversary. As a part of that, we are doing what we call our 50 for 50 campaign, where we're asking our members and supporters to donate $50 in honor of our 50 years of service. And with that $50 donation, you will get a COMTO gold mask, and the masks are pictured right there. And then coming up, we have another Black History Month event coming up on February 25th. We will be celebrating our African-American state DOT leaders. That event is sponsored by WSP, SOMAT Engineering, Ardmore Roderick, and Singh and Associates. And our guest will be Director Omer Osman of Illinois, Director Jack Marchbanks of Ohio, Director Tux Omashik-Shakin from California, and Director Sean Wilson from Louisiana. And our moderator will be Mr. Phil Washington from LA Metro. And of course, we have some more phenomenal women that we're going to be hosting on a webinar in March 11th for Women's History Month. Right now, we have India Birdsong from the Greater Cleveland RTA, Inez Evans of Indigo, Deborah Washington of RTD, and Stephanie Wiggins of Metrolink. So we're gonna have some more Black girl magic, as we say, to give them their unique perspective on the transportation industry. And then also we'll have another COMTO Gold historical perspective with Dr. Beverly Scott, who was mentioned on this call, Mr. Will Scott, and also Ms. Shirley DeLibrio. So thank you all once again. I think this has been a great discussion, and we look forward to seeing you on February 25th for our next Black History Month event. So thank you all.
Thank you, Twary.
Thank you.
Thanks, Twary.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Meshelle. Thanks, Freddie.
You're welcome.
Go do
Be
good stuff,
safe.
Veronica.
Be
Stay
safe,
safe,
ladies.
everybody. Stay safe.